So, in the latest chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, we kind of get, I don't know if this is like Gege saying this, or if this is just Yuji or Kusakabe or both of them saying this, but it ends with saying Gojo's won. Basically meaning like, he's put Sukuna in checkmate. And I don't know if that necessarily means that like that is definitive. I'm sure there's still going to be stuff that happens after that, but for now, I guess Gojo fans can say that they have their W here. And now that we're also on break, I think this is a great time to talk about what would happen if Gojo fought Hienera Sukuna. And when I say Hienera Sukuna, I mean like Sukuna in his prime, when he was in his original body, had all of his power, the forearms, the messed up face, and in, hypothetically access to his full power set, whatever that may or may not be. So I've got my boys with me, the fake weeb and no operator. We're going to be discussing that hypothetical fight. So first, let me just say, like, do you think that it would be, at least difficulty-wise for Gojo, would it be that much different from Gojo fighting this version of Sukuna inside of Megumi? In your guys' individual heads, just thinking like if Gojo were to fight Hienera Sukuna, like, do you think just right off the bat it would be more difficult?
I'm gonna say yes. I think it would definitely be much more of a challenge than the current Sukuna using the 10 Shadows. I don't know if a lot of people will disagree with that, because maybe someone will point out, like I've seen this in my comments, oh, then why did Sukuna have to use Maharaga in the first place if he already had something within his arsenal that can, comfortably fight Gojo or combat his infinity? And yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think Kusakabe and Hikari already implied or explained why a couple chapters ago. Like, Kusakabe basically broke down the fight as if, Sukuna is the one preserving his true powers while Gojo is going all out. And Hikari suggested, because Sukuna knows that Gojo's students are watching him, right, the students are acting as his insurance, Sukuna's bound to have a trump card that, he doesn't want to reveal yet until Maharaga is destroyed. So yeah, I think the implication is there to say that he and Air Sukuna would be much more of a challenge than, his current Sukuna with the 10 Shadows. I don't know if Noop, you have anything to add on from there?
Yeah, unironically, I think it's an answer that we'll probably be getting relatively soon based on how Sukuna responds to this final explosion hollow purple that he just got hit with. Because at this point, Maharaga's taken out. It's unclear if the 4 or 5 Shikigami that were all in that collective Agito were either taken out or just, incapacitated for the time being. Personally, it really comes down to whether or not you agree with what Fake Weeb said, and with Sukuna has had this trump card, quote unquote, or just overall some kind of technique or ability that he's just been holding back and choosing not to use, either specifically because, like Fake Weeb said, he doesn't want the group of people that are going to jump him if he actually does win to know that ability and come in prepared to use that. And 2, because quite frankly, he might not feel like he needed to use it until just now when he actually felt tension and felt pressure for the first time in 1,000 years. This could be one of those moves where he's like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually going to have to use this. I've never been pushed to this point before. It overall, like the Fake Weeb said, it comes down to, if you believe he has that trump card, then yes, it's quite possible Heian Sukuna could have done irreparable damage and beat Gojo this entire time. He's just been using Maharaga out of pure convenience and the fact that he's like, hey, I've got this new ability, let me use it, as opposed to using this ability that I haven't used in 1,000 years and I don't want the people that are going to come fight me afterwards to even know about.
Yeah.
Actually, no, you're right. I was just going to say I do agree, or at least I think Maharaga is only a supplementary way of fighting Gojo, if like that's a proper way to phrase it. Whereas like you said, his true strength and powers derives from his own mysterious curse techniques, right? Like Zhoniin said earlier, the shrine, the open, potentially other secret tactics he has. Like, let's be for real, right? Like Hikari, he's not saying, oh, Sukuna might have a trump card for no reason at all, right? I feel like Gege Akutami, the author of this series, if he writes about the possibility of Sukuna having a trump card, then he has a trump card, and its utilization should be more effective than the 10 Shadows, considering it's implied that Sukuna's trump card is being specially preserved. So yeah, it should be more powerful and definitely more of a challenge for Gojo.
I do think that's the reason Sukuna is using Maharaga, because like Noop was saying, like it's there and it's available. I also think Sukuna probably can't use the full extent of his abilities unless he is in like his true body, or he has all 20 fingers, which he currently doesn't. He only has 19, and then he ate like his head or whatever, his mummy head, whatever that did. So we'll say he has like 19.5, maybe 19.3. We know 100% for sure that he hasn't done something against Gojo, the fire stuff that he did against Jogo. So that could be one of the trump cards that he's holding back in case they jump in, in reference to what you guys were talking about. But I just think that like the true Sukuna that we see in that flashback with Yorozu is like much stronger than this Sukuna. I don't know why I feel that way, but I feel like pretty strongly about it. It would still be competitive if he were to fight Gojo right now, but I think he would ultimately probably defeat him. Like, he wouldn't even get to this point of like questioning if he's winning or if he's in checkmate or not, or being this damaged by Hollow Purple. And that's just, of course, hypothetical because, like we were also talking about just before with Weeb, and also in another collab that we did about Sukuna's possible curse technique with the box and the opening and whatnot. Him opening the box, it has other things in there that I'm sure he has like 3 or 4 other things that we haven't seen yet, along with the fire. And again, it's possible that he can't use that technique unless he has access to all of his power and fingers and whatnot. So that's why I just think we're not seeing like the full potential of Sukuna here, and why everybody's calling him like a fraud this, he's using Mahoraga, he needs Mahoraga to win. And it's like, yes, but I've said this to another friend who just, casually follows the manga, loosely knows what's going on. I try to explain it to them by saying like, okay, so you played fighting. I'm assuming we've all played fighting games at one point or another in our lives. We're all, nerdy here. And you have this main character that you play as, and you get really good at them. Now you're going against this really good player. Like, he's the guy in the friend group who's like really good. He's considered the best. So now you're going against him. You're pretty good yourself. But now you can't use the guy that you normally use, the character that you normally use, your main. You're using like another character. But that character's still pretty good, but you've never used him before. You've only seen him used by somebody else. So you kind of know how it's used. And you start using that character, and then you just get busted with that character. And then you're somehow still pushing the guy who's considered to be the best. That's what Sukuna is doing here, at least in my opinion. So that's why I see Sukuna as not being a fraud, and why he and Era Sukuna would probably defeat Gojo like mid-diff or something like that, mid to high diff.
While I would never say who would win without conclusive evidence, because I'm sure we're going to, like I said, we're going to figure this out by next chapter, to kind of piggyback what you were saying off of that he didn't use the open or the fire attack against Gojo yet. It does prove that he hasn't used everything that he has in his arsenal. It also, we have Yorozu's gift that we haven't seen yet. And also one thing that I think clearly proves the way that Sukuna's approaching the battle is going to come down to the way that the fight even went. The battle started with domain expansion. Well, first it kind of started with a little warm-up fight, them testing each other with hand-to-hand. And then immediately it went into domain expansion, and Sukuna was like, all right, I'm going to take you out with Malevolent Shrine, and that's going to be the end of it. When Malevolent Shrine didn't work, he basically just went down his list to, okay, well, if domain expansion that nerfs Limitless and domain amplification that nerfs Limitless aren't going to kill him, I guess I'll move down the list to Mahoraga. Like, if you are the all-powerful king of curses, if you really think about it, you're not going to use your all-powerful move from the very beginning. You're basically going to do what Sukuna's doing and is going down the list. I don't think Sukuna's a fraud, and I think we have to wait until next week to say if Heian-era Sukuna, or just whatever full power Sukuna's been hiding out that he's going to show next chapter, I think that will prove to us who is going to be the winner.
Oh, Zhoniin, you said that you don't think Sukuna could access his forearm body, right? Or because I was afraid there might be a snarky comment, because I've got this before too, where I've mentioned that as well, and someone said, oh, but Fake Weeb, he can use his forearms because, if you remember in the bathing ritual when Sukuna pushed Megami's soul deeper in the abyss, I think Kenjaku implied that Sukuna could have switched the appearances or faces instead of keeping Megami's face. But I think he said, if he's going to be fighting the Jujutsu sorcerers, it's better to maintain Megumi's appearance. And people like took that as, oh, so he can fight with his forearms, but he doesn't choose to because maybe it's a lot weaker. But I actually disagree with that. I think, assuming this is what you said before, unless my memory's wrong, I don't think Sukuna can use his forearms yet because, well, one, I think Sukuna is intentionally using Megumi's appearance to remind them that, yeah, Megumi's body's been stolen and that, Sukuna right now, he can't actually switch to the forearm body. I keep saying that a lot, sorry. But the reason why I say that is because even he says it to Yorozu, right? So in their first encounter, he says to Yorozu that she's also keeping her current vessel's face, Sumiki. And so to me, this implies that, okay, when Kenjaku mentioned the possibility of Sukuna switching to his original appearance, I think he generally meant his face, which is also why in the Viz translation, I think they said visage, which is like, I guess, a fancy way of saying face, and not his full body with his forearms. Meaning, assuming Sukuna's forearm body is stronger than Megumi's body, I assume it is, because why wouldn't it be? Then technically, in this current Gojo versus Sukuna fight, Sukuna is still somewhat considered nerfed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That was like, all right, a bit messy.
No, I agree with that because also he could probably alter his appearance, but it also goes back to just what I was saying about he just doesn't have all of his fingers. So I think if he has all of his fingers, maybe then he could do the forearm form. I don't even know what's going on with that because we've never seen anybody resurrect like looking like, Sukuna, like having 4 arms and stuff. So I don't know how it works, what he needs to do, if he could do it with a singular body. I guess he could if he has just 20 fingers, from 4 arms. So until then, we just don't know if he could do that. But I think he could for sure just look like a version of himself. Like maybe just a, non-4-arm version of himself. Yeah, he's keeping the Megumi aesthetic for Gojo for sure to mess with him and whatnot. But until he gets all that power back from the last finger, which I think will have a substantial boost. Like I don't think it's just going to be like a small percentage increase. Like it will be like night and day. Like it kind of has to be because it has to surpass Sukuna as he is right now, so that he'll be more of a threat later on because this isn't like his final fight, or at least I don't think it is, but yeah.